I'm not very happy that this is the last episode. This Romania Black. And why? Why when this season's been so good? Oh, I know why so many of you probably rotated to the manga after this, because you're like, what? We have to wait an indeterminate amount of time for season 2? How dare you? Which, let's be honest, I mean, I feel we don't have a set date as I'm recording this for when season 2 is going down. I feel like if it's not at the end of this year, like if it's not like a winter 2025, then they're probably going to have it for spring, and they're going to do like maybe January or February perhaps. But honestly, there's so many shows that I watch on this channel, and I hope that you all get to check them out because there's so many good ones. But I feel like there's such good anime around that I can be patient and wait because I'm watching so many amazing shows after this. It just sucks because it's just gotten so good, and it's been week after week consistently amazing, and I've been like, yes, and now we have to wait. So I did tell Discord, and I've talked to my update videos and did things like that, that I am planning on doing a couple leftover videos later this month and into June. My brother wants me to make him Eggs Benedict, so I'm like, okay. My brother wants me to make Eggs Benedict for him. I want to redo the pancakes because those were a disaster in episode 22. And there might be some other recipes and Q&A stuff that I want to do along the way. My brother and I are going to an anime convention at the end of this month, and so there's potentially some Dungeon Meshi content that might come from that. So we'll see. I want to do a video about the convention, so there'll be some Dungeon Meshi stuff that I'm hoping will happen with that, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, so I'm really excited. But this season, this series, I'll be honest, when I started Dungeon Meshi season 1, I thought it was just gonna be a humdrum little fantasy, and it's crazy. This series and Frieren have really gotten me on board with kind of the fantasy, like high fantasy series. But Frieren and this series are so very different. There's been a lot of comparisons made on the Discord between those two series because there's some similar voice actress, stuff like that. But what I appreciate is that Frieren is a very different series than Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in Dungeon. It has its own focus, and it's very good in what it does. And Dungeon Meshi is its own series. It's very good in what it does. And I have appreciated, I am a reactor and a person who ascribes to stories that have really good character work, character development. The plot to me is always a bonus. The symbolism is always a bonus as well, but if it has good character development, I will be on board. And this series has done so many wonderful things that have been subtle, that have been nuanced, that have been exciting. And like, we just had a whole episode on Senshi last week that just developed his character so much. And I've really, really, really enjoyed Delicious in Dungeon for the character work that it's done. And I am so excited for season 2. It's gonna be a good time. But yeah, so, it's gonna suck having to wait for it. I've already picked out a series that is replacing this one, that I have a feeling is gonna be very different from Dungeon Meshi, but y'all will find out next week if you check out on Fridays. And then we'll just watch some series while we wait for it. But I've really enjoyed and loved this series. I have enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. Like the very first couple episodes, I'm like, oh, this is a fun show. I enjoy this. But around the halfway point, I was like, oh. Around the time we got to episodes 7, 8, and 9, I was like, oh, this is really getting good. And then the second half of this season has been even better than the first. And I have adored it. And it sucks this is the last episode until we wait for season 2. The fun thing is, I'm going to get to watch season 2 week to week with you all. So that's going to be fun. But with that being said, I think if I do cooking with season 2, because I would like to, I will probably do in like the leftovers format, and they will just be over on Patreon. If you want to donate $1 to the cause, then you can to see those videos. And I plan on putting some leftover videos of a couple recipes either this month or next month. So we'll just see. I've been playing around with my brother's schedule. I will tell you all right now, I probably will not cook for this week, because if we have anything worth making, we'll just do like I kind of want to do the Eggs Benedict and redo the pancakes, and that might even be in the same episode or not. And I want to make the dumplings. I want to try that we got in last episode. I want to make the dumplings and give that a whirl. So I have ideas of things I would like to make, but I didn't want to do a cooking segment this week because I didn't want to rush it. Because the time I did the pancakes, it was like for episode 22, it was literally at 9 o'clock at night. You can go back to that video and see the timer on the clock on. You know, there's some content creators that they try to say that they're like doing their morning routine at a certain time of day. No, you can go clock me. You can go check me out in that video and see that I'm making a pancake at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night to try to make it in time to release on Friday for Patreon. And I just didn't want to rush for these last 2 episodes. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to rush myself and put out content that wasn't worthy to you all. So I do want to do some extra leftovers. It'll probably happen sometime either this month or in June. Probably June because I have more time in the summer with my brother's schedule and to work with things. So that's probably will be the case, but that'll give you all something to look forward to. So if you are patrons over my channel, you guys will get to see that. Speaking of which, before we dive into these comments, because that's going to happen, I want to give a massive shout out over to Patreon, to the philanthropy tier, because you all, honestly, the only money I'm making right now on this channel is through Patreon. So if you like my videos and you want to support me, whether it's $1 or $5 or $10, I know in these harsh economic times, but honestly, the money from Patreon helped me to buy the equipment and the things that I used in this series. Now, I'm not going to use Patreon money to buy the food because I ended up eating it, but like the hot pot equipment and some of the new equipment that I used, I did use Patreon funds for that because otherwise I would have not had a reason for it other than for the videos. But now I do. Now I have it, so that's cool. But I want to thank Patreon for all the support. You all are amazing, and you help me do what I do on this channel. So a special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Dana, to Damage3245, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, to as well as Danger Zone, Alexandra Q, as well as Eric Fisho, Ichu, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Liam Polzel, El Freya, Matthew Palfinier, Murphy, Adam Perez, Nicholas Nago. I've got some new ones on this list. Sunspots, Shimoyama Trails, Translucent Men, Starman AA, as well as Bisa and Ching Y21W. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So that's unusual because usually I do that right before the episode starts, but we have a lot of comments before we dive into episode 24, and I want to talk about them. They're mainly for episodes 22 and 23. And then those of you that leave comments for episode 24, I will probably take note of them, and I will likely keep them in mind I'll save them to talk about when we start season 2, so they can just like sit there if needed. But I definitely am going to check out everybody's comments as long as they're not spoilery for season 2. So, Blue Blade, for some of these comments are hilarious. So I'm sorry this is going to be a long intro, but some of these comments are hilarious. And I laughed so hard reading them. So we're going to get to it. Blue Blade 1645 for episode 22 says, while you are right that it wasn't Tansu at the end in Senshi's mining crew, one of them is a gnome and not a dwarf. So that might be where you initially saw the resemblance. Some people were pointing this out with episode 22 that it was a gnome. And I think that's really fascinating. I kind of think that speaks to Senshi being so open to traveling with a party of mixed races, because he was used to being in a party where that was the case with the dwarves, because you had the one gnome that was with them. So I feel like, again, the show does little things where it does character work, but it doesn't just spell it out for the reader or the viewer. You figure it out as you go, and that's so freaking cool. So I love that about it. So thank you, Blue Blade, for pointing that out. Arianode, 1973, for episode 22 says, the thing about Thistle being a jester has always sounded wrong to me. We never see Thistle do any jester stuff. Yeah, he doesn't strike me as a comedic type. Either in the anime or the manga or the extra comics, just playing music. I think minstrel would be a better term for his position in Delgal's court. All I can think about of Thistle being a minstrel is that one scene in Monty Python, The Holy Grail, where the prince is in the castle and he's like, I really just want to sing. And then the father's like, no, none of that. I always think of that. So, but Thistle being a minstrel with music, That kind of scares me a little bit because music and magic together sounds like a very dangerous combination. And if you have access to a bunch of beasts and creatures from other realms or chimeras, I think of the Pied Piper or music taming the beast, like calming or soothing the beast's soul. So I get a little concerned about that. So we're going to put that on the back burner and just file that away and pin it for season 2. Yexon Lee 592 for episode 22, and I'm just butchering everybody's handles at this point, says, I love the details in this show. They never put focus on it, but once you notice these little details, it adds to your enjoyment. Like, and I agree with that entirely. That's what I mean. Like, it doesn't ever call it out and put focus on it, but it's there. So if you notice it, it's like an Easter egg. Like how the plated gold on the pillars was only stripped halfway because the gold peeling crews couldn't get to the higher parts. And I was like, that's why last episode I was like, why does part of the ground have gold but the other part doesn't? Because of the gold peeling. That somebody's been there peeling gold. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's so good. Yes. But also, look, yay, Jean Lee. Oh my God, I laughed so hard at this next comment. They said, also, if we're talking about Laios's hand motion in episode 22, putting on my shipping hat, does it mean that if Labru were to get it on, Laios would have to imagine Kabru's, quote, man noodle as a monster, since he probably wouldn't be interested otherwise? Yes, the answer is yes. Laios is going to have to imagine Kabru's dick as a monster in order to get it on. Someone pointed out, I don't know if you all tune into Umiko-chan. She is an artist over on, I believe it's a she, over on Twitter and other media platforms, but their artwork is God tier. And I have just found out through the Discord that they do Laios and Kabru fan art. And it is very tempting for me to make a Patreon subscription just so I can go filter through, because I've been told that the fan art is not spoilery. So I'm like, I might have to make, in harsh times to suffer through the hiatus, I might have to go join their Patreon for a month so that I can go through and just gobble up every ounce of Laios and Kabru art that they have. I don't think that's a bad thing. So that comment sent me, so thank you for that. And then Ridasante for episode 33 says, oh, in case you forgot, Anne was also the name that Senshi gave to the Kelpie in the lake he'd become familiar with, the one that ultimately tried to eat him underwater. And now we finally know why, and also why he was so depressed by her death. It's quite sad that he tried to have a substitute for his beloved horse as soon as he found another horse-shaped creature in the dungeon. That's where I knew that name from. During episode 23, I was like, Anne. There was something named Anne in this show, and it was driving me crazy, but I didn't want to go look it up because I was like, what if it's a spoiler? I don't know. But yes, he did name the Kelpie Anne, and then it died. It was like the Artreyu in the Neverending Story and the Bog of Depression. I was like, oh my God, it is. So that is horrifically sad. But again, the show doesn't ever like spoon feed you and think that you're dumb. It knows you're intelligent. It knows you'll pick up on these things eventually. And that is just amazing. Like if I went back and rewatched the series, which I'm probably going to do before season 2, let's be real, I'll definitely go back and rewatch the English dub. Then yeah, that would just be a moment of, oh, I can't wait to rewatch this series in the English. If it's been a while since I've watched a show, I would like to go back and rewatch the series before it just to refresh myself. So it's going to be fun to go back and rewatch this series in the English dub. That's going to be a fun time. El Freya says for episode 23, let's be real. Laios doesn't want to be king. He doesn't appear thrilled at the prospect because he knows his heart is he knows in his heart what he was always meant to be. Zookeeper Laios. And so I was like, yes, Zookeeper Laios. We're going to talk about the whole Laios is king factor with the last comment in this section. But if Laios was the keeper of the dungeon, the monster keeper, I'd be all for it. Monster rancher, let's go. Senshi being uninterested in typical dwarven stereotypes and not being a strong fighter made him even more interesting. The suggestion of sending elf Senshi to the Canaries What do you figure the odds are the negotiation turns into a cook-off? I honestly, if Cinchi negotiates with the Canaries by having a cook-off, maybe Cinchi's cooking is what soothes Grumpy Elf's soul. Maybe Grumpy Elf will find peace and solace in Elf Cinchi's cooking. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I do love the idea that Cinchi has been the type of character that has gone against all stereotypes this season. They're not one for fighting. They're a lover, not a fighter, which we'll talk about here in a second with the last comment I have to show you all. And then they, you know, they're kind-hearted, they're soft, and they're like a big mushy teddy bear underneath that giant massive beard. And for the record, since she has been our subject of fan service this entire series, and they are all for it. And I'm like, thank you, show, for making Cinchi the fan service subject. I just freaking love it. And then finally, Icy, for episode 23, says Laios, in my opinion, wouldn't be the worst king. When push comes to shove, he can be a good and serious leader who knows how to effectively manage a party of people. My evidence is in the Fallon fight and the aftermath. He's also compassionate and generous, which is evidenced by what Kabru said a few episodes back about him giving pay to someone that was injured while in the party. He just wouldn't be amazing at politics. So yeah, he'd need a few advisors and mages, like you said. Yeah, so Laios could be a good king. He would just need to hire or marry or get together with or have living in a polycule platonic situation with Marcel and Kabru as his mage and advisor. Look, if this series ends with Marcel being Laios's mage to like oversee the dungeon and whatever around him as he's king, and Kabru is his advisor / side piece, I'm fine with this. This is fine. I'm okay with this. I can draw a lot of conclusions from that. So yes, I 100% agree with you about that. They also said, keep in mind that the mushrooms don't change personality. So Cinchi is like that naturally. Cinchi is a beautiful diva underneath that big oily beard. And now in elven form, he gets to show it off. I do wonder, though, if the elf form allows them to kind of show off a little bit, you know? Does the elf form let them show off a little bit of that more naturally? I don't know. We could see. We could have arguments about that, and it is what it is. But anyway, I know I've talked for nearly 20 minutes, but I appreciate you all just watching this series with me, encouraging me to watch it. This was something that landed on a spinning wheel of fate, and fate had it that I would get to watch this, and I was so excited by that fact. So I am really sad we're on the last episode of season 1, but it is exciting to me to know that hopefully, knock on wood, fingers crossed, we don't have to wait that long for season 2. So that's a good thing. but anyway, so I'm excited. I hope you all are as well, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive into episode 24, which is the season finale of Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in Dungeon. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I never know exactly how loud to make this because I'm like, also it's the last time we're going to see this OP, which is so sad. I've really enjoyed this OP. And I think my favorite part has been that I always like OPs that evolve like unexpectedly and like without drawing attention to itself. So the fact that Asebi has been featured in this OP is super cute. Aw. Oh, I love that each part, since she's showing up. Yeah. Aw. And Fallon, this lady friend here. Oh man, the dark nature of the fact that they opened it up and it's them inside, and we just had a cannibalism scare last episode. Show, what the frick are you doing? Oh, and there's a ghost there. Okay. Hmm. Okay. All right. That OP still has such dark undertones to me, and I know it's so happy and cute, but... Okay. David Tennant. Ah, Cinchi with this glow! I just can't. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Aw, they're like, we don't have long legs. Shield Truck's like, you never slow down for me. Aw. Oh. Oh. How old are they? Okay, 26. Oh, shit. Oh, 2.5 times. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, shit. That's a terrifying thing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Chill Chuck, why are you scared? Why are you scaring her? Oh, wrinkle cell. Oh. Well, some do. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. The mortality that makes her scared. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, it's... Or, yeah, that's not good. I don't like the idea of side effects. Yeah, I don't like the idea of side effects. Oh. Oh. Give Fallon the mushroom. I repent. Oh. Oh, God. We had such a rough time. Right. Oh! Hear him out. Oh, my God. Ah. Uh-oh. So what do we do about that? Oh. Or that. Oh, man. Okay. What an optimistic guy. Oh, my God. Oh. Ah! I mean, my dude. Let Laios cook. Let him tell us. What did he want to become? Our werewolf man. Oh, shit. Is it wings? Yep, not good. Well, shit. No, even worse. Oh. Ah. I love Senshi. Right there. Damn it. Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, why can it do that? Why can it do that? Oh, no. Marcel. Our poor girl. Ah. Easier said than done. Shit. Oh, my God. Oh. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Oh. Oh, shit. Oh, my God. What? Oh, my God. Did Kensuke get it? Oh. Oh, my God. Oh, no! Oh. No, listen. Oh. And this is like the OP with the ring. Okay. Okay. No, come on. Damn it. Damn it. Come on. No, get to that the circle. The circle. Bitch. Damn it. Ugh. Okay, okay, okay. Oh my god. Ah! Every time with Senshi gets me. Did it become worse? Oh, wow. Oh, shit. Damn it. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Ah! Oh, don't be throwing her around. Poor Marcel. Wait, wait, wait. Oh, my God. How epic. I love the animation. It looks so good. Oh, my God. Oh, girl. Why is it so... All the animation budget. Oh, girl. Oh, no. Oh, shit. Oh. God, that's hilarious. Poor Kensuke, though. Washing the hands in it. Yeah, but it's just water, thank God. Oh. 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 Oh, like a fairy ring. Right. Chill Chuck, you having a good time with this? Look at how you've changed. Oh. It does look like a key. Hmm. Okay. That again. Where's my doujinshi of Senshi and Chilchuck? Tired of them. He's like, fine. I'll make them different. Oh my God. Oh. The hair is still in that one. Oh my God. Yeah, you just fried him. Ah! Oh. 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 What? Well, you can get real perverted with this real quick. Yeah. Right, that didn't happen. Okay. Oh my gosh. They look interesting. Wow, Chilchuk is huge. Or Marcel is tiny. One of the two. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Uh. Uh-oh. The fact that you don't know. Oh. 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 What an awful way to wake up. Oh my god. Chilchuk's like, I wanted to stay a tall man maybe a little longer. Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm glad we turned back by the end of the season. I should have made sausages. Yeah, they evaporated. They disappeared. Oh. Never mind. Oh, we're gonna take Kinsuke. Oh, well. Uh-oh. Go show me! Oh. No more mushrooms. Good try, Laios. Trying to take some with you for Fallon. Oh. Is it like an elevator? Is it an elevator? A trolley. Okay. Interesting. Maybe that's what Sebi was hearing and noticing. Shit. Shit. Oh. Uh-oh. I don't know. I don't like that. Welcome to the Hotel California. Since she's like, oh, wait, we're going to die in this. I didn't read it enough. I feel like it's descending into hell, and I don't like where that's headed. What does it say? Brew some tea. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Ooh, what a time to tell this. Yeah. Let's get some exposition. A long story. Rebellious Laios? Oh. 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 Oh, wow. Oh. Hello, Laios. Oh my god. Oh. Long-haired Eric style Laios. Oh. Oh, wow. We're going to talk about this. And then met them. Oh, wow. And Chilchuk and Marcel. Rel. Well. Oh. Because, yeah, we saw that back there. Oh. Oh. We didn't get to see Marcel's face there. I don't know. I don't know. Oh. Cut to Marcel. Oh. Oh. Our hair. Oh shit, girl. Well, damn it, son of a bitch! No, it's for real. Oh. 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 Oh shit. How can you say it's not a ship? You're liars. Oh. 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 Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh. Well, maybe. It's not that simple. No, I'm sure not. Oh. Oh. Okay. Interesting. If we consume all the dragon parts. Oh, oh, bitch. So about that cannibalism. I'm against resurrecting people. Oh, bitch. Oh. Ooh. Oh, man. Oh, that's your problem with it. Ooh. Yes, literally what you've been doing all along. Well, I mean. So what do we do? Cobru, you ever ate a dragon before? Orc Village, you want some dragon? Oh my god, if he becomes king, he'll just have everybody eat dragon for a year. Yes. Yep. They probably wouldn't be able to taste it, but sure. Shiro's like, don't you dare! Oh, he seems interested in trying! No, he doesn't! Oh my god, no! Laios, you're treating people. We've got our midway goal. Okay. All right, winged lion. Oh, don't screw the pooch yet. Oh my God. These three. Oh. 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 Oh my God. Well, shit. Oh. Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Interesting. Right, Fallon menus. Oh my. Oh my. Uh-huh. Love it. Oh my God. To be continued. Oh, wow. No, I want to go back to this. Do we have anything at the end of the episode? Anything else? No. Dang it. No X thing. Oh. That is a great place to end off this season, actually. What a great place to end off. Okay. All right. Wow, so we had a lot longer episode last week than this one, but that makes sense. I mean, this was definitely a good place to end off for the end of the season, but man, yeah, all the elves with Kabru in them. Okay. Interesting. I'm curious about Thistle saying to not eat the mushrooms there. Curiouser and curiouser. We're going to talk about that. Oh, man. Oh. What a way to end off the season. Wow, that was actually an amazing place to leave off this season. Okay, Dungeon Meshi, pull it out. Okay. I really didn't know. I didn't know how they were going to do it. I had no clue how they were going to make this season finale work, where it didn't feel rushed, but they managed to make the fairy ring be a thing, and the changeling thing kind of makes sense, and I'll go back and using the gargoyles and having Kinsuke involved. Like, I thought that was really good. I probably should have brought Whiteboard Kun out, but I was like, no, we're gonna let Whiteboard Kun take the week off and come full. He's gonna probably come back full force when we get to season 2. But I really liked this episode, and what a great way to subtly give us Laios' backstory without giving too much away, because I have some theories about some things, and maybe I should have brought Whiteboard Kun out. It's fine. We'll make this work. But they're setting so much up for season 2, which I'm really happy about and excited. Kabru with the elves, and they also have our boy and Namari there as well. Shuro and Namari there. I'm like, that's an interesting recipe, so to speak, no pun intended. And I'm talking about the humor and weirdness of Thistle and Fallon. I have lots of things to say, so we might as well just dive into it. I think it's very clever that they start out with Laios and Marcel as the half-foot and dwarf versions, and that they're having trouble because they have short legs now and they can't quite keep up with Chilchuck. And Asebi doesn't really seem too much different than their original form, being the kobold. But of course, Senshi bringing up the rear is kind of fun because he's just over there like being a diva self, taking up the rear, you know. But I kind of love that Chilchuck has this moment of just taking advantage of them long legs and being able to walk fast, and then they turn back and they're like, well, shit. Chilchuck, I think, had the best benefit of that moment there. But I also think it's worth noting that when Chilchuck says they didn't notice, it's not that Chilchuck was being kind of rude to Laios and Marcel. It's just that Marcel and Laios aren't used to being smaller, so they haven't had these problems before, whereas Senshi and Chilchuck, they've grown up in these forms, so they just naturally have adapted to just moving around the grates and everything, and it doesn't bother them because they're used to it. So it is kind of cool to call that out and bring that out in this episode. And so then they talk about aging in the current forms, and Chilchuck brings it out. So we find out that Laios is 26. Okay, I do not feel bad about... In the Discord, I'm laughing because in the Discord, there has been some kind of, shall we say, spicy artwork of Laios shared, and a part of me was like, I'm like in my mid-30s. Is it right for me to feel like, is it right for me to be like, oh, these are spicy Laios things? Is he like 17 or 18? Is this going to be weird? He's mid-20s. He's almost late 20s. We are fine. I'm so glad. I'm like, oh, thank God. And Marcel, we know at least, is probably at least 30s or 40s in elf years, if not a lot more, because Chilchuck's like, you're in a half-foot form now, so should you be dead? And Marcel's like, ah. So, and then, of course, we have Senshi, who's just, you know, like middle-aged by elven standards. You know, the good thing is from going to dwarf to elf, you get like a glow up because you technically are younger by elf standards. And then Chilchuck is middle-aged on like, you know, mid-30s or by, you know, tall man years. So, but that was a good point to bring up, being like, are you going to start aging with these forms with the remaining lifespan? Is that going to be a problem? Luckily, they don't stay in that form too long, and this is played up more as a joke, but that is something to really note. That could be a thing, you know, especially with the whole chimera business. And if we use the changeling mushrooms on Fallon, what's that going to do to her and all of that? And then Marcel has that, you know, biblically accurate angel representation of mortality that she sees. And she's like, shit, because dying is something she's terrified of. And so having an elf having an existential crisis is so nuanced and unique that it's kind of refreshing in this show, which I like. But Chilchuck says the mushrooms are convenient. You know, there'd be loads of people that would want to change what race they are, you know, Asebi included, now that they're Chimera. So why have we not seen these mushrooms before? And Laios is like, you know, what if there are side effects? What if there's a problem? And we kind of get the side effects here in a little bit. But it's interesting to note that Laios was thinking ahead, and he wanted to use the mushrooms on Fallon to be like, once we rescue her... my theory was that once they defeated Thistle, they could use the book to change her back, and that there'd be a spell that would allow that to happen and Marcel could use it. But we don't know that for sure. So Laios is thinking, well, if that's not the case and she goes back to the surface, she's going to be ostracized for being a giant chicken dragon. So how do we mitigate that? Well, if we could use the changeling mushrooms on her, we could do that and then make her a different form that would be more easy to hide or less noticeable. I do love Laios' process where when he defeats Thistle, Thistle's just in like the groveling position with like a little bonk on his head and a spotlight on him. Like Laios isn't going to kill him. He's just going to be like, now look what you did. And then Fallon's going to be like, what have I been doing? And Marcel and Laios are happy to see her. I like in Laios' vision, Marcel is there as well. Laios has already accepted Marcel as a sister-in-law. You might as well just sign the marriage certificate now. Get it over with. He's already accepted it. But then he's like, when we return to the surface, there's also a vibe in this about acceptance and how Laios is so accepting of Fallon, like in that form, but he's worried about everyone else's perception. That's such like a sibling coded, like brother looking after his sister no matter what sort of situation, which you could ascribe to a lot of different things now in our own world, which is great. And he's like, it's going to be tough for her to remain a dragon from the waist down, which I don't know. You could have a whole discussion about. There's been some people commenting about, since the dragon was male and now Fallon is part with the dragon, is Fallon like trans? How does that work? Like, there's a whole discussion about that you could have in this if you wanted to. You don't have to have it, but you could have it. And so there's that. I always think back to, there was a grad school class I took where our professor was talking about how you can draw out context and subtext. And he was like, you can make literature work however you want to, in whatever capacity you want to. And he always brought out a scene from Moby Dick, and it is the infamous eel scene where they're on the boat and they're holding eels and fishing for eels. And we had to read that passage out loud. And when you read that passage out loud, it's a very sexually coded scene that we were all like, oh, what is this about? And our teacher he went, it's about them fishing for eels, right? And we were like, no, there's so much more to this. And he's like, but is there? And so there's a whole talk about context and subtext and how and the point was that your experience and your knowledge and what you derive from literature helps to reinforce your own interpretations of it and how you derive from it. So because I feel like I have friends that are trans, and I feel myself kind of getting involved in a lot of political trans conversations about trans rights and things like that, yeah, for me, he's talking about Fallon being accepted and how she's changed. It's like, is that somewhat coded? And it might be. You could derive that. Or you could just think, no, she's got a dragon behind. And so that's something we got to deal with. So you can go all sorts of places with it. But I like this series allows for those types of conversations to happen. And I like that Marcel's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about, Fallon? What are we doing? I like Chilchuk has to hold Marcel back in this moment. He's like, I thought of hiding her lower part of her body in a hole, which is the concept of Laios digging a hole that's big enough to hide her dragon bottom half is actually actively hilarious. But he's like, it takes a lot of mana to keep that form. So she'd be like a fish out of water. She wouldn't be able to survive in the village in that form. And of course, Marcel is worried about that. So he's like, we could use the changeling mushrooms to change her shape. And then it shows her in like the form of like an alligator. And then of like a velociraptor dinosaur from like Jurassic Park 3. And then like a iguana. He's like, she could live comfortably in the human village if we do this. I love Fallon being like, what an optimistic guy. And Chilchuk's like, insane. And they imagine, what is that Mushu? They imagine like the version of her. What did they say of that? And it said there's a Mushusu. What is Mushusu? I want to look this up real quick. Mushusu mythology. Oh, okay. Mushu, it's a creature from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. It's a hybrid, a scaly animal with hind legs resembling the talons of an eagle, lion-like forelimbs, a long neck and tail, 2 horns on its head, a snake-like tongue and crest. It appeared on the Ishtar Gate of the city of Babylon during 6th century BCE. Okay, it's translated as a fierce snake. It's in a lot of Sumerian religion and art. Interesting. I think it's cool that they bring up that idea that could be something that Fallon becomes, I guess, which is curious. I guess they were assuming that she could become that, and that's like another form that she could take through that. I don't know why they specifically went to that. But then Laios says, he's like, well, I won't deny that I also have a wish to transform. And I was like, so Laios does want to become a monster. He's totally fine with being a chimera as well. Because he thinks tall men are unremarkable and dull. Laios is probably in the dark nether spheres of AO3, in the dark recesses that people rarely visit. I mean, they don't let us hear him go into conversation about that, but he thinks tall men are really dull. So I'm like, is this foreshadowing that Laios is going to undergo a transformation? He does have that dog in him, so as it's been told to me in the comments. So is Werewolf Laios going to be a thing? Who knows? Who knows? But just as he goes on about it, the gargoyles show up. And so I love the idea of, since she's just sitting there like doing this with his hair, The idea that this is Cinchi and has been Cinchi the whole time just cracks me up to no end. It is hysterical to me, and I live for it. But yeah, Laios like headbutts a gargoyle in this episode, and then it manages to grab Kinsuke, and then the sword transforms into this bitchin' ass thing with a damn skull and a snake and a horn, and it looks like a keyblade. What are we gonna do with that? I also love the still of Chilchuck in tall man form looking down at Marcel holding her like a little half foot, and then both looking like gloomy at each other. It's adorable. So yeah, they managed to form a ring. I love that every time they cut to Cinchi in this entire episode, Cinchi's doing like the shoujo pose. There are roses and Cinchi's eyes are like looking like Rosa Versailles. And he's just like, oh, just like all of this. Cinchi is a delicate flower trapped in a dwarf body. And we have only now learned of this. But Cinchi just being like, my delicate face. Oh, I'm not a fighter. Like, God, I love it. I love it so much. Also, can I say, if any of y'all know where there are some hot elf and tall man Cinchi Chilchuck Doujinshis out there, hit a girl up in the Discord because Romania needs this in her life. I need it. Please. Not that you can give me half-foot Cinchi and dwarf Cinchi and half-foot Chilchuck Doujinshi as well. But there were many moments where Chilchuck and Cinchi were like, when they were like changing their clothes and everything, they looked like they were from a 90s BL. And I'm fine with that. I need that, please. So if any of y'all have that, that'd be great. So I loved Marcel's idea of making the fairy ring. It goes back to the OP where they make the ring. Also, it ties to Ring Around the Rosie, which is, about a plague, but we're going to ignore that. And ties to the fact of the souls and everything, and them all being like a big melting pot, which that OP still seems dark to me. We'll see where that all goes. But I also I like how Marcel has this plan and they kind of doubt her for a little bit. And I'm like, just because she's a half foot doesn't mean you have to doubt her. And then they all pull around poor Marcel. But it does work. It turns the first gargoyle into what looks like a sewer drain lid or a shield, which is funny, which I thought was interesting. And then the second one becomes the statue that pees on them, which you know what? Usually potty humor is not my jam, but somehow Dungeon Meshi pulls it off, and it's just quirky enough that you're like, it's just clever and quirky enough that it works. But yeah, they managed to get the other gargoyle to go through the ring by literally jumping Marcel into the air, she's been tossed around a lot these last few episodes. Bless her heart. But can we talk about the animation jump in this sequence? Like Asebi and Cinchi in elf form and everything, like the shadowing and everything, it almost felt like an entirely different series. I freaking loved it. It was great. And then they managed to get the gargoyle through the ring. Poor Marcel. Girl has been through a lot this season. But yeah, so he's like, we need to wash off all the spores. We're like seed beds for the mushrooms right now. I understand why the mushrooms have this characteristic. When the animals change their forms by the changelings, then they're hated by their own kind, and they die, and they become new changelings, which is morbid. They make it funny, but it's like, oh, that's actually morbid in many a way. But it reminds me of the fairy rings, like when a tree gets cut down, a lot of times where the roots of the tree will die. Like my family and I, we've had several trees cut down on my family's farm, and when the roots die out and start to rot, the ring forms around the tree, and it's called a fairy ring, and it's the exact same concept. So, which is kind of cool in an interesting way. I like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that naturally just happens for animals that aren't, civilized, like the tall men or dwarves or such, because, here they're not running from each other because they're scared. They can rationalize what has caused them to change, right? So like, let's eat a meal while we wait. Now, the big question is, do the changeling dumplings, was that a catalyst for them transforming back into their original selves? Or did time just pass before the mushrooms wore off and they digested them and pooped them out? The spores and all. I don't know. Although Tall Man Chilchuck and Elf Cinchi can get it, for the record. I like that they have the statue tied up And it's putting water into the pot to boil the dumplings. That part was really fun. And then they have Laios taking the bath with Kensuke there. Mm-hmm. Kensuke looks like... I doubt it was the mushrooms that turned the insides into a key, but will it revert if I give it a wash? Now, Laios is devious. He was going to keep Kensuke with mushrooms growing inside of him so that they could use them on Fallon. And they were like, no, don't cause this mess to happen again. We just changed back, you know, which is great. So they fried the dumplings. Oh my God. And she's like, oh, hot. Like the hot oil getting on him. That was freaking hilarious. I loved every bit of that. That was amazing. And poor Asebi. I like Asebi like turning down, being like, I don't want dumplings anymore. I'm tired of them. And since she's like, tired of them, like since she was so appalled, like, how dare you turn down this free food? And so he's like, well, time and effort was put into these. And that's when he puts them into the mouth of the gargoyle, and it's like its own fairy ring, which if you want to get all in the gutter about that mouth being a fairy ring, you very well can. But we're not going to do that. That's fine. That's fine. So they bring up a point about eating the dumplings. Like, is this changeling meat going to be a problem? And since she says, look, you ate the hippogriff meat and nothing happened. I like that since she points out the digestion, I love that, again, we are tying to the rule of thumb about food in the dungeon, that food has that digesting and eating has an effect. And here it's not only the fact that it can just, you know, you're not going to get affected by it, but that's how powerful digestion is, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. So they put the changeling dumplings, which all look different and have different properties. I don't know if I can create these changeling dumplings, but it is good to note. And then they wake up and they're all back to normal, which poor Chilchuck getting Laios's ugly pale foot in his face. Bless. Like, they all turn back to normal. Yep. He's like, my body's back to normal. And Chilchuck's like, well, great. I love that they're like, thank goodness. And Chilchuck's like, so much for my tall man days. Although Cinchi looks gorgeous with his hair down. Cinchi has been our handsome goat this entire series. So they talk about the pipes. And he's like, the temperature here is conducive to creature reproduction. Like, there could be, he's like, but I'm not sure if there are any living things ahead in this environment. That's a good point. Although, he's like, I wish I would have brought in more sausage, but... Well, I like that we go back to the boneless dragon ham, going back to the body of the dragon. We're going to talk about that later. But he's like, well, you know, I'm just happen to be growing mushrooms inside this sword. And they're like, really? Really, Laios? I love that Marcel, being classic sister-in-law, is like, what the fudge are you doing, Laios? What are we doing this? And they take it away. Mm-hmm. So instead of any paths, we have this mysterious trolley that is leading us into hell. Now, granted, that trolley seems a bit creepy. I don't know if I like it. And for a while, when they started to fall asleep, I was getting really worried that them falling asleep was going to be like part of this mechanism and it was going to lead to something bad happening. But since she doesn't seem to think so, but I really was a little bit worried. It's an automatic trolley once they get inside. I was a little bit worried. Asebi seemed to think that something was powering it. So I do feel a little bit creeped out by the fact that Asebi seemed to notice something powering the trolley. I also like Asebi's new wardrobe. It matches the OP. They weren't wearing that before, so I like it. It shows off their cat body and they seem to be okay with it. So, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about the trolley coming to life and moving. It feels a little weird. There's a description, but since she doesn't seem to get any information from that. There isn't much written here. But what did it say? He doesn't tell us what it says. It's like, we'll ride it for as far as it goes. This felt like something out of a video game that you get in the trolley and it like goes to the next spot. So he's like, we'll brew some tea with the dryad seeds. And he's like, is the magic circle ready? Now, at the beginning when he said magic circle, I thought he was talking about using the changeling things to change it into something else. But what I like about this scene is that it's Laios using magic and not Marcel. And Laios is making the circle, like testing out his magic even more to start boiling the seeds to make the tea, which is kind of cool. I'm not used to tea being made from seeds, which is interesting, which I'm sure somebody in the comments will talk about. But since she's the one saying, like, hey, last episode, we got my backstory, and Chilchek's told us his backstory, I feel like Marcel's backstory is going to come last. And it seems that way because Marcel's an elf, which is tied not only to the elves following Kabru and them, but also the lunatic magicians. So I feel like the elves, they're intentionally keeping the elves a little bit distanced from us as the viewer because we need to wait a little bit before we find out more on them, right? And I feel like we're not going to find out more on Marcel than we already know until we get closer to Fallon. So he's like, why did you and your sister become adventurers? What's very curious about this is Laios, up until this point, has just seemed like an innocent lamb. He's a little golden retriever man. He's kind-hearted. What would Laios do that would be of any problem, et cetera, et cetera. And since she's like, you don't seem greedy, so what's the deal? And he's like, well, it's a long story, but I'll give you the abridged version. And he says, when I was in my teens, I got fed up with my village. Which he looks so grumpy as a little teenage kid. But honestly, I could see Laios, like, you know, thinking, oh, these plebeians, they don't understand the true value of monsters and such and such. And he just gets kind of bored there. So he's like, I went to a school in the town and joined the army. And so he's like, but in the end, I didn't fit in there either. Seeing Laios beat up and looking kind of disgruntled made me really sad. But also, you know what it gave me vibes of? If you've not watched this series, I highly recommend it. It's very chill, a very low key, like the lo-fi of anime. But it's Natsume's Book of Friends, and the main character Natsume. In this regard of this episode, Natsume and Laios remind me a lot of each other, and that's all I can really say without getting into much. But yeah, they feel like they could be kindred spirits in this episode. So he says, I got picked up by a caravan that passed through the town. So basically, he decided to desert because that's what Chilchuk's like. He's a deserter. So there's part of it being like Laios left the army. He's a deserter. So that could be one of the reasons why he's not felt the need to go back, because would he be welcomed back? That's a big question. So he's like, I slowly drifted south, taking odd jobs along the way. And you see like his pants kind of like torn as he's like growing up. Also, Laios with his hair down in his face and long-haired Laios. I've made the comparison to Vash the Stampede before, but it is in full swing in this episode. And I'm like, excuse me. Yes, please. Yeah, long-haired Laios, absolutely. And Fallon was boarding at a nearby magic school. So she sees him and he's got like the flies around him. He looks like all disheveled and grungy. She insisted on joining me. So Fallon ended up leaving the boarding school to go be with her brother. Shut up. Shut up right now. And together we reached this island. So this island here, as we come to find out, is not where they were originally from. They're originally from another island, not this one. So, okay. That kind of distances my theory of Laios and Fallon being related to Delgal and them. That separates that theory out and kind of nixes that a wee bit, unless Delgal's kin left the island and settled somewhere else, and that's their backstory. But from this, it makes it seem like, no, they are not related to Delgal or anything like that. They're from somewhere else entirely. And we arrived on this island, gold peeling was thriving, and so it shows Fallon using her magic skills. Although, Fallon's using her magic skills against the mushrooms, but also she's beating the shit out of them. So Fallon's always had a violent side. We just haven't been privy to it until now. And Laios attacking with his sword, and there was plenty of escorting work. I was like, is Kabru there? And then we just stayed and hung around the dungeon. And it shows Fallon reaching for the skies. See, there's a part of me that feels like Fallon wants to be with her brother, but there's another part of me that feels like Fallon maybe believes that she's holding him back, or she's kind of become isolated after all that time by herself, that she feels kind of lonely or like a loner. Or that she doesn't want to burden him and maybe feels like a burden. Fallon is the most mysterious character in this show, and we don't exactly know what she's thinking, but that has me really excited for season 2 to see what she views as far as this goes, so we'll see. And then we meet Shuro along the way and get Shuro involved. And then Namari and this other guy that looks like Connie from Attack on Titan. And then a couple other characters, and Chilchuck gets involved. And then we see Marcel. Marcel seems like she gets up in Laios' face, and I would imagine Marcel is mad that Laios took Fallon away from the boarding school, and she's like, how dare you? And he's like, but she's helping me on my quest. So that's what I think. We'll see. We don't know for sure yet, just conjecture. He's like, and that's how I ended up here. And he's like, wow, that was quite a lack of foresight. Like, but here we are. You're one thing, but why did you let your sister go with you? She could have had a better life at school. And he's like, well, her childhood wasn't very fortunate. And because of her talent for magic, she was shunned. Yeah, by the village and by her family. I couldn't stand the environment. Well, clearly, yeah, you can tell Laios loves his sister, and the fact that people treat her poorly like makes him mad. So he wanted to leave and try to maybe find out a way to help her. I left the village a year before she did, until she entered magic school. No, until she met Marcel. She had her meals all alone. I love that little alteration where he's like, it's not her going to the magic school that made her life better. It literally was meeting Marcel. That line there. I'm like, yes, you might as well just give the marriage certificate now. It breaks my heart to think about it. And this scene of Marcel where he's like, Fallon's spirit was much stronger than mine. So maybe it didn't bother her too much. But that's why I made a promise to myself to never abandon her again. I like that Sebi lowers her ears. At least, this part here, at least not until someone else shows up whom she wants to be with. At this point, look, if you ship Fallon and Shuro, I ain't dissing your ship. You have that ship. That is great. Go you. If you're shipping Fallon with anybody else in the series, you have that ship. You can have it. You can board it. You can sail away with it. That is totally fine. I am not dissing your ship at all. But to me, this scene is like, we're at the halfway point of the series. This scene to me is like, oh no, it's Fallon and Marcel. It has to be. Because then, after he makes that statement, we have Marcel starting to cry onto Asebi. And Asebi's like, oh God, what's happening? Which this scene is practically adorable. And her face, where she starts to cry, and they're like, oh, what the heck, gross. And she says, Fallon used to bring me a lot of things. And like the acorns and the strange nuts and the leaves, odd plants. I always wondered why she kept bringing them to me, but she probably wanted to eat them with you, Marcel. And then, of course, she starts crying because that means that she wanted to be with her. I love Asebi reaching out to give her a hug. It is the cutest, most precious thing in the world. Like the animation, all of that. I love it so much. It's so precious. It's so cute. Everything about it warms my heart. I love that so much. She's like, I can't wait to share meals with her again. And Laios just smiling at that. Like he's like, that's right. That's right. Fallon deserves to be with you, Marcel. That's right. Oh. And he's like, well, you'll be able to soon. The way I see it. And then I like this since she explains Fallon like bacon and eggs. So basically we ascribe to the fact that Asebi, unfortunately, we think that she and the cat, they have merged, they have mixed. There's not a good way of separating Asebi from the cat beast. And if there is, it's going to be a lot more intrusive and a lot more invasive and might be more dangerous. But at this point, since she's like, we can probably separate Fallon from the dragon part of her perhaps a little bit easier. And so their solution to all of this is to eat the dragon parts. He's like, back then, I preserved some of the dragon meat, but it all turned back into flesh and merged with Fallon. However, some of the meat did not turn back into a dragon. So it's the parts that we ate at dinner. So the meat that had been digested by other creatures loses its identity. So this is the only clear law in the dungeon. So if we keep eating parts of the dragon, eventually the dragon's soul will be gone. So we're going to eat part of Fallon. Cannibalism? What? But that is insane. We could drive out the soul of the dragon that way. And he's like, I'm against resurrecting people, but you want to release Fallon from the dungeon and she's alive, so I might as well help in eating the dragon parts. I like that the issue with Laios is not the fact that we're eating part of Fallon that is the dragon, but the fact that he's concerned about how many meals it's going to be. He goes into like Bubba Gump shrimp mode where he's like, you can do all kinds of things with dragon. You can boil it. You can make filet mignon. You can have steaks. He's like, what are we going to do? So then they're like, well, we're going to get everyone to consume Fallon. Basically, I'm like, is this like, is Fallon like, is this like the Eucharist? Is this like the body of Christ? We're just going to all eat it like wafers and drink the wine. Is that what we're doing? But yeah, he's like, well, the orcs would probably help us eat the dragon. They're probably fine with it. The people in the Golden Castle, they'd probably just give it to the dogs or whatever. And then I was like, Namari and Shuro. Shuro is the least likely, well, second least likely to eat that dragon meat. But he's like, oh yeah, Namari and Shuro, they would help us out. And then Laios says, they'll lend a hand if we appeal to their emotions. Like if we say this will help Fallon or give them money, they'll do it. Then he has the audacity to say, and Kabru seemed interested in trying monster food. And in Laios' mind, Kabru goes, wink. I'm like, Laios, Kabru is the last person to eat the dragon meat. Are you insane? But I love that that's how his mind rationalizes it. And I'm like, oh my God. Kabru is going to kill you before he does that. He's like, I wish we could have another troop. Yeah, because what does he say there? But at least we've got clear goals now. And so by the end of season 2, we have established our 3 main goals. One is that we release the winged lion from the heart of the dungeon, which seems nigh impossible upon itself, but okay. 2, we're gonna, with the lion's aid, neutralize the lunatic magician's power, and it just shows Laios punching Thistle. Sure. This all seems so simple. Like, just simple, walk in the park. How hard could it be? Sure, 2. And then 3 is that basically we're gonna recruit enough people to assist us in consuming Fallon's dragon parts. And Laios is like, I'm very optimistic. This seems so doable. We'll get there in 5 minutes. We'll have this done. Yeah, I doubt that. Yeah. Asebi's like, this seems a bit insane. There are no troops inside the dungeon. Uh-huh. Well, there were no troops inside the dungeon. And then we immediately cut to Shuro, Kabru, and Namari and the Canaries, who might be shaking that up, right? So the dungeon is transformed, and Namari says, you'll get it once you see it. It's going to be unpleasant for the folks behind us. So we have our 7, technically, the Magnificent 7 Canaries. We have the one with tattoos. We have Grumpy Elf in the center. Somebody said that they ship Kabru with Grumpy Elf. I see it. It's maybe a little too much grump for me, but I see it. I mean, you have Grumpy Elf, who's like the least charismatic character in this series. And then you have Kabru, who is the most charismatic. So I see it. I can see it. Then you have the one lady elf with the fairy. I consider the fairy separate. Then you have Lady Elf, who's the chief. And then the short-haired one. And then the one that looks like a 7 Deadly Sins character. So it's fun times. Actually, all the elves kind of look like that. Yeah. The thing that gets me is that the walking mushroom comes by and Fallon catches it with their feet and holds it up like they're going to eat it. And it's kind of deceptive because the eyes are still the dragon eyes. So you think that it's Fallon eating the mushroom, but there's clearly still the dragon instinct taking over. So I don't know what that says about Fallon. If it means that Fallon is going to be herself or if they have to separate the dragon before she goes back to being herself, or if she's merged with the dragon and that's not possible anymore. I don't know. But Thistle says don't eat stuff like that. And then the mushroom flies away and saying, what's all this racket? So the walking mushrooms we could garnish for a steak. I wonder why Thistle didn't want Fallon to eat the walking mushroom. If Thistle was afraid the walking mushroom would dilute the dragon's identity by adding something else to the mix. I don't know. That's interesting that Thistle did not want them eating the walking mushrooms. But yet we've seen Laios and them do it so much. Interesting. What does Thistle know that we don't know? 'Tis the question. And Marcel's like, quit planning out Fallon's menu. But yeah, so they start making up food. We don't know what these little lights are on the outside of the trolley and where they're going, but we'll find out in season 2, I guess. Oh my gosh. This was a great ending to season 2. I absolutely loved it. I have no clue where we're going to from here. Like where this trolley is taking them. We know Kabru and Shuro and Namari are headed with the elves into the dungeon. Are they going to meet up that way? What about the lion that's entrapped? Why doesn't Thistle want Fallon to eat the dungeon food? Is Fallon Fallon? Are they the dragon? What do we do with that? Is there a separation? Why is Fallon hanging out with Thistle so much? I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. This season has been so much fun. I did not think when I started this series I would get as invested into it as I would. I am not going to read the manga, just for those of you wondering. Not when we know the season's going to come out at least by next year. Like we're almost, if you can believe it, we're almost halfway through this year, which is wild to me, but we really are. So I'm not going to go ahead and read the manga. I'm going to wait until after season 2 to see what we do about the manga and the extra stories and all of that, which, you know, there's a lot of great shows on the channel that I can watch in between now and then, especially with the one that we're starting next week. So we'll see, but I'm so excited for season 2. It's going to be so hard waiting. It's going to be so hard to not get into spoilers, but I did really good. I wasn't spoiled this season, except for like the one thing about Chilchuck and his kids, but that's fine. And so I'm excited for season 2. I'm going to be muting everything so I'm not spoiled between now and then. Anyway, there will be more leftovers to come, probably in late May and early June. So keep an eye out for those if you're on Patreon. And otherwise, I'm going to go to a convention with my brother, and hopefully some Dungeon Meshi related things will come of that I'll be putting on the channel. And then I have a lot of other shows that I'm watching right now that are super fun. And I'm going to be doing later this summer a sci-fi poll to replace a series. And so hopefully that'll give us some good stuff, and maybe a fantasy poll later on. We'll see. But in any case, I am excited to know your thoughts about this series season finale. What did you guys think of the finale? What did you all think of the episode? Please, no spoilers for what's going to happen in season 2, but I'm excited to hear y'all's comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and I'll definitely be back with season 2 of Dungeon Meshi, but in the meantime, I'll see you all again real soon with some more reactions. Bye!